Here's the title of my presentation today. When we were trying to come up with ideas for presentations, this is the one we came up with. Then I started to actually write it and realized that the numbers are wrong. So the title on the schedule is actually wrong. I'll be covering the changes between the last DITA OT day and today. So 2 releases. This would be called off by 1 error, which is a common mistake that programmers make. So I think we're in good company here. My name is Jarno Elovirta. I don't really work on DITA other than as a hobby these days, but I've been working on OT and other DITA related things for a while now. There should be a clock somewhere. So, since the last time we met in Rotterdam, there, about 1.5 years ago, we released 4.0. It was a major release, and we released a bunch of stuff on that release. I don't actually remember anything about it anymore. Then, because we have a 6-month release train, last summer we released 4.1, and today we're releasing 4.2. The numbers, in a way, are not that meaningful. You just increment something, and occasionally you increment the first number to denote that you're breaking backwards compatibility. In this release, there should be no major backwards compatibility issues. If there are, they are called bugs. So I have listed few features that I think are nice or cool. They're in no specific order of importance. It's the order that came to me. So, map first pre-processing. You've already heard me talk about this quite a few times. But as a recap, when OT was originally released, it had some pre-processing, the thing that resolves keys and reads files. And we started to call that legacy pre-processing because while it's still working correctly, it doesn't do everything the way we might want to do these days. So now we're actually adopting this map first pre-processing that we added in OT3 to also be used in HTML5. That means both PDF2 and HTML5 now use map first pre-processing, and different sentence than I thought. So in order to make the migration path from the legacy pre-processing map first pre-processing in HTML as easy as possible, we fixed a bunch of bugs there. Usually corner cases, annoying ones, but the process of fixing these sort of gave us insurance that this newer version of pre-processing really works. The way we did this was first fix all the bugs. In a way, try and make the change really easy, and then once everything should be really easy, you just make the easy change. So this is the change we made. Here, you add one number and that's it. So in a way, reverting that should be equally easy. And Robert will probably go through this in his presentation. Maybe, I think it's next. The XHTML transformation still uses the legacy pre-processing. Also, the other legacy transformation types use the legacy pre-processing just because I know some people are still using really old Open Toolkit versions for reasons. And if they ever update to a newer version, we sort of hope that we don't introduce new bugs as they move, and this is sort of a safe bet, I think. There's a possibility that at some point we'll just move everything to map first pre-processing and completely deprecate the old one. Lightweight DITA and Markdown. This is a plugin to OpenToolkit that allows you to use Markdown as input and also get Markdown out if you want to. So the biggest new feature there, which was actually already released in 4.1 half a year ago, but maybe not everyone has found it, is support for what's called $sign schema. If you've ever looked at, for example, JSON schema or any of those API documentation tools that use the JSON as a format, they use this $sign schema to specify a schema for something. And that's basically where I stole the idea from. This could be seen as equivalent to a DTD declaration in XML or a processing instruction to use relaxing schema or an attribute to use XML schema. It's something like that, but you can also see that this as SGML declaration. Yeah, Elliot's nodding, so it's probably the right term, where you specify encoding and what the language is supposed to be like. So this isn't strictly validation. This is more telling the parser what to do with this content. So you just specify the schema at the top of the file in the, we call this the YAML header. They'll be marked down here soon. So you specify it at the top in the YAML metadata. That looks like a reference to an XML schema. It's not. It's not reading anything. It's not using it to validate anything. It's just an identifier. URNs are lovely, just identifiers. The reason for choosing this is that those are already readily available. I didn't need to come up with any new identifier scheme of my own. So when you start using this, bear in mind that there's no validation, actual validation going on. Then you just add your content. Can everyone see this? Is it too small? Then you just add your content. And in this case, we declare this file to be a topic. And here's the topic. You have the topic title, short description, sub-body content, and ordered list. By default, all Markdown files and lightweight DITA files, mDITA files, are topics. But you could also specify it to be a task. So something that's almost exactly the same is passed differently. So the stuff that comes after short description is actually now part of context element. And the ordered list is no longer a simple normal ordered list. It becomes the steps. You have the command as the first thing and then additional info. And if you're inclined, you can implement these schemas or schema processing yourself. So it's not as simple as just authoring an XML schema. You don't actually author any schema files. You just create Java files that do the parsing. This extends to a degree to lightweight DITA documents also. So this is an mDITA document here. And mDITA has two profiles, core and extended. So you can explicitly say that this is an extended profile mDITA file. There's nothing extended in the content right now. This is just a short, simple example. But by default, the plugin assumes that mDITA files are using the core profile. Someone in the audience might be able to tell us if this is valid mDITA. I tried to check the spec draft. didn't find the answer, but my assumption is this is still a valid mDITA, even though there's some custom key in the YAML header. Then implementing this allowed us also to extend Markdown support to cover DITA maps, which is, I think, kind of cool and also something that you'd expect. So we start off by declaring the file to be a map. So the same thing repeats over and over. You have the map title. You can have topic references, which are represented as a list, because if you look at the table of contents that maps to a DITA map, it looks like an ordered list or unordered list. So you have normal Markdown link references with the brackets. You have nesting, so you can create nested structures. Here we have one with a nav title. Here's one link without any nav title, so it will, during the processing, pull the title from the prerequisites.md. You can also reference files just by using keys. So this is the key syntax for Markdown. Should work in your favorite Markdown editor. And then I realized you can also represent rel tables in Markdown by just creating a table with a bunch of links, since rel tables are really simple in the end when you look at those. And of course, you can declare, hopefully you can see in the bottom, you can define keys, a normal Markdown feature. So you don't have separate key definition elements, or rather, you have a separate key definition element in a way here. So you can't declare a topic reference with a key definition at the same time. A limitation of Markdown. But all this, your plain old, boring, hideously boring Markdown, but it can be read as a map. And I really like this feature. There are probably still issues, or well, let's call them bugs, in the implementation with the plugin and the DITA OT itself. So you might not be able to combine Markdown with XML DITA, like with every possible combination, but we'll be working on that. So in the future, you should have two languages that you can author DITA in, and they should interoperate like a dream. Yes. Okay, so it's not mirroring my stuff. Okay, good. In addition to these new schema features in Markdown, or Markdown support, I also added location information when it's parsing. So location information means you know the file you're parsing, the line number, and the column number. So we'll be able to provide better error messages that actually point to the Markdown file, not just the whole file, because you can have hideously large Markdown files. So I think this was a nice quality of life improvement also. There are a few issues with it, like if you have a text node, basically just text. I can't give you the location of that because there's no place for me to map it to. But with all elements that are generated from Markdown input, you'll get the location information. If you've ever written Java programs using the Sax API, this is a location or locator API. Then the underlying Markdown parser was updated, and also refactoring was carried out. And the parsing speed is now, depending on your use case or how you measure it, 2 to 4 times faster. The parser itself can't be used independent of Open Toolkit or the plugin itself. So it's just a plain old Java library or class. So it can't be reused if you're sort of, I don't know, creating an editor for Markdown and you want to pass it into DITA for preview. And then something I've neglected for quite a while, Markdown output, because I thought no one wants to output Markdown from DITA. Why would they? Just like, why would anyone want to use Word as input for DITA? It turns out a lot of people do. So there have been multiple bug fixes to the Markdown output, as well as some new features. You can check the details in the release notes that have been generated by GitHub automatically by pressing a button. So the release notes at Lightweight DITA plugins page on GitHub are quite terse, but you can go and read those. And then there's the put gun I gave everyone, because on and off, people have been asking, why can't I have block content in my tables or table cells? Well, the reason is Markdown's table syntax doesn't allow for block content, like multiple paragraphs in a table. So I just use the Markdown's escape hatch and start generating HTML. The output will be awful when you generate Markdown with tables that have block content. It will look awful. It will work if you preview it or publish it, but it's really, really difficult to edit if you try to edit as text. So this is a total foot gun. You may use it if you wish, but it is almost like trolling the users, because you just asked for it, you didn't know what you're asking for. So don't blame me, blame your fellows. And as already mentioned, we improved the logging messages. I won't go into too much detail about the actual copy, and also some improvements to the CLI, the actual DITA command. So we tried to make it appear prettier, because all the 21-year-old JavaScript developers write tools that are pretty. They use colors and such. So we added a bit more color, like that's blue color. If you get a warning, it will be yellow. If you get an error, it's red. So we're using 3 colors. I'm hoping to add even more colors. Of course, there are some people who can't see the difference between red and green, so it will still display a prefix like error. Also, this is basically your normal Open Toolkit's output. I'm sorry for the font size. We used to show the ant target name. That's something short, like html5.topics.something, an ugly internal name. So now it's using descriptions from the ant files, a bit more user-friendly way of showing things, as long as those descriptions mean something and you actually use them. If there are no descriptions, it will just use the old internal IDs. Then we copied a feature from many command line tools that it's a normal feature these days. So you have these RC files. You may recognize them from, I don't know, bash.rc or nvm.rc. So those are just local configuration files. A property file, you just have key value pairs. So you can specify your defaults with these, meaning the runtime properties. For example, if you want to specify your formatter without always needing to type it on the command line, you can do that. Or you can set, for example, the processing mode. Like that uses a hyphen, that uses dot. These are the internal property names that you can actually find a list of on our option reference. But this allows you to type less on the command line just to run Open Toolkit. You can specify these on multiple levels. So first it tries to find this file on your current directory. If there's no such file, it actually starts to go through your directory structure, just going towards the root. So if you, for example, have a project folder, and then you're somewhere deep inside in a directory underneath topics something, it will find that property file in the project root. Again, it goes further and tries to look it from your home directory. If you look at your home directory on, for example, Linux or Mac, you'll find plenty of these dot something files there. And then finally, the OT installation directory. Yeah. It won't just read the first one, it actually combines them, merges all of them, so you can specify your local configuration at multiple levels. When you start to think about this, it kind of starts to look like a project file. So in a way, you can use these as a replacement for project files. You should not use project files. They're a dedicated feature for defining your output and your context, meaning the files and filters. But this is just something that should make your use of the command itself a bit easier. I came up with new features to this yesterday and the day before, but they haven't been included in the release, so in the next release this will be improved even further. So I have now, according to the schedule, spoken for 2 minutes. So good. Good job. We have lovely and detailed release notes that list almost everything except one issue. Because I told Roger not to document this feature. It was such a small change that I just told him, don't document this. So the release notes are hopefully now live. Good, the website is live, lovely. So you should check these for details of 4.2, but also the release notes for 4.1 are there also when you start to update to the latest version. Thank you. In a way, I have 12 minutes for questions, but if there are any, I suppose I could answer one or two. No, thank you.